The M2 MacBook Air might be the laptop of my dreams because ever since I saw all the attention that Apple gave the redesigned 24-inch iMac, I have been thinking a lot about what Apple might do with a redesigned MacBook Air, one of their best-selling Macs. So for this video, I wanted to go over everything we know about the next MacBook Air so far, and what I think Apple should do for its next big M2 MacBook Air redesign. Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and I just wanted to remind you all that we are getting closer to that 200,000 subscriber milestone. And YouTube tells me that most of the people that actually watch my videos and the returning viewers still aren't subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, if you like the channel, if you watch my content regularly, well, get subscribed because May is going to be a busy month and you're not going to want to miss my videos on the new M1 iMac and iPad Pro. It's going to be so much fun. And also, a big shout out to Renders by Ian over on Twitter for including these amazing M2 MacBook Air renders for today's video. And if you love Apple concepts and you aren't following him over on Twitter already, go give him a follow because he is amazingly talented and does some of the best renders out there. All right, let's get into the video. So just like the rumored new 14-inch MacBook Pro, we are also expecting a redesign with the M2 MacBook Air. Right now, the MacBook Air has a good design, but it looks a little too similar to what we have on the base level 13-inch MacBook Pro. And while the MacBook Air is a light and thin computer weighing in at 2.8 pounds, it's also not as radically light as the 12-inch MacBook was, which came in at just 2 pounds. And if you've never held a 12-inch MacBook in your hands before, you'll never understand how great it was to have such a light laptop in such a small form factor. It was almost iPad-like in portability. And it sounds like the next MacBook Air might be an in-between of the current MacBook Air design and that 12-inch MacBook, as Mark Gurman from Bloomberg reports that Apple is working on a thinner and lighter version of the MacBook Air. Not only will the MacBook Air be thinner and lighter, but Apple is also looking to drastically reduce the bezel size of the 13-inch MacBook Air. Unlike some of Apple's other designs, the MacBook Air's thinner bezels won't lead to a bigger display size. Apple is still planning on keeping it at 13 inches, but Apple will make the overall volume and size of the laptop smaller, focusing on a lightweight and portable design. Gurman also reports that this MacBook Air will be receiving the MagSafe charging port, which is also rumored to be returning to future MacBook Pro models. And if I had to throw in my own prediction here, I'm betting we will see the Ethernet port return on future MacBooks as well. It won't be on the laptop body, but they will be included in the power brick just like they are with the redesigned 24-inch iMac. Now, as far as what this redesigned MacBook Air will look like, I have to wonder if Apple will heavily borrow from the design of the 24-inch iMac. Apple spent what I think is a ton of logistical and manufacturing resources on the 7 color options on the new iMac, especially when you consider that each of those colors also comes with its own color matching mouse, keyboard, lightning cable, and even the power cord is color coordinated. That's a lot of dedication to spend on the iMac, which granted is a popular all-in-one desktop, but it isn't near as popular or doesn't sell in the sheer numbers that the MacBook Air does, the most popular Mac by far in their laptop lineup. So if Apple is willing to give us all of those color options on a lower selling product, it stands to reason that they would be just as eager to dedicate even more resources to the popular MacBook Air. So while there are no rumors or reports on this yet, I think it's very plausible we could also see these new MacBook Airs come in a range of 7 color options that match the iMac. We might also see white bezels, and I know white bezels are a controversial topic, but it reminds me of the older white MacBook designs, and I think it looks so fresh compared to the current design that we have now. In fact, Max Tech also just did a video on what he thinks the new M2 MacBook Air will look like, and he also believes that we will see different colored MacBook Airs with a white bezel on the front. And I am in total agreement here. I really do think that Apple has a chance to now bring back color options into the Mac designs. And I also think that this is a return to the simple Apple's 4-quadrant product grid, where you have a clear separation between consumer and pro products. The consumer Mac products can have brighter colors and white bezels, giving them a friendlier, more personal look to match the user's taste, while Apple's pro computers, like the MacBook Pro, can focus on being sleek and look like they fit in a professional setting. I think this product separation and distinction is a much better approach and offers greater variety in the Mac lineup as a whole. Now, as much as I love these renders and concepts of the MacBook Air design, a lot of us are just as eager to know what chip is going to be powering the next generation MacBook Airs. Personally, I think what we are going to see in this Air is a MacBook Air equipped with the next generation M2 chip, and it could be one of the very first Macs that actually offers this M2 variant. Now, I know there's a lot of confusion over the naming scheme of M1X and M2, but I think generational changes will come in higher number counts, and higher core counts and better GPU cores will come with the X branding. So theoretically, the M1X chip will have higher multi-core performance and better GPU performance, while the M2 will likely be weaker in both of those areas, but it will probably get a boost in single-core performance, which will then carry over to the future M2X designs. Basically, don't expect the MacBook Air and the higher-end MacBook Pro to be on the same level, but the M2 chip will obviously bring a performance boost to this next MacBook Air. So much so, in fact, that I think Apple might get rid of the M1 MacBook Pro, the $1,299 version, and replace it in the lineup with this version of the M2 MacBook Air, especially after reading Gurman's reporting where he says that the next MacBook Air will come in at a higher price point and that Apple will continue selling the older M1 MacBook Air alongside it in the lineup. Besides performance improvements, I think the M2 will also fix some of the weaker points of the current M1 Macs. So the M2 chip should allow us to have more than one external display, and like I mentioned before, MagSafe is returning, so we should see more controllers for the I/O. As for other features that might make its way into this MacBook Air, Ming-Chi Kuo reported in March of this year that Apple is still planning on bringing mini LED displays to the updated MacBook Air. So that should have the same specifications on the one we just saw released on the 2021 iPad Pro, with a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio and 1600 nits of peak screen brightness. That's going to be so great on the laptops. We also know from Gurman's report that Apple has explored the idea of making a bigger 15-inch MacBook Air, but apparently that won't be ready for the next revision, but it still could come in the future. I think that's a smart idea because some consumers just want a bigger display without all the extra power and features and added cost of a MacBook Pro. And right now, the only option is to spend $2,400 on a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is out of the price range for a lot of consumers. The MacBook Air used to have two size options with an 11 and a 13-inch display, so Apple bringing back a second display option, it makes a lot of sense to me. Finally, as for when we can expect to see this MacBook Air, well, Bloomberg says there is a possibility we could see this MacBook Air towards the second half of this year at the earliest, but he also acknowledges that Apple could wait until 2022 to release this product, which lines up with Ming-Chi Kuo's reporting, and personally, I think the earliest we will see this new MacBook Air is either at the tail end of this year, so sometime in November, or sometime in early 2022, probably around March. I think that lines up best with what would probably be the production of the M2 chip. All right, everyone, but so far that's all we know about the new M2 MacBook Air and what I think we will see in the design and the release date. Please let me know in the comments below what sort of design and features do you want to see from an M2 MacBook Air, and do you want multiple color options like we have with the new 24-inch iMac? Also, if you like the video, be sure to leave me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, well, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.